This video is sponsored by All In Games, the publisher of Fort Triumph. Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and today we're taking a look at Fort Triumph, a brand new tactical RPG that was born out of a successful Kickstarter and has shown some serious promise through its development and early access period, with a release date on PC that just recently passed and future console releases planned as well. Being a tactical RPG with XCOM style turn-based combat, it was right up my alley, and then I saw the clear inspiration from some of my favorite classics. So when I was asked to cover it, I was excited to dive in and explore the game. Now if you're interested in picking the game up, following up with the developers on social media, or joining their Discord, check out the links in the description down below. I'll also be doing a giveaway, but I'll get into those details later on in this video. Now, please keep in mind that since this is a sponsored video, it is not a review. I was given free rein with how I wanted to talk about Fort Triumph, and I really want to touch on the 4 things that most stood out to me while playing. The 4 things that surprised me, either with their depth or the opportunity they presented. Without any more time to waste with an introduction, folks, let's dive right on in. The campaign. Fort Triumph features 4 factions, each representing a fantasy trope, from the humans to the undead to the trolls to the goblins. While the humans are all-rounders, neither excelling nor failing at anything in particular, each of the others has its own benefits and pitfalls, like the undead who cannot bleed or be blinded, but seem rather fragile, or the trolls who cannot take cover but come with more hit points, or the goblins that are small and therefore better at using cover more efficiently. They can be played in the skirmish mode, either solo or co-op, or through a mission-based, story-backed campaign that's split up into multiple acts. The storytelling is fun and whimsical, but every so often it drops in something really dark, like a betrayal or the mass throat-slitting of a bunch of innocents. That juxtaposes against the extremely playful art style and even the sense of humor. A sense of humor that honestly really jives with me. It takes digs at everything from student loans to working for exposure to the class divide, and even the very fantasy tropes that the game itself is built on. Apart from the story's twists and turns keeping me interested, I was actually quite curious to see how the jokes and how that sense of humor would be pushed. The narcissistic, self-indulgent paladin who steals all the credit, the shady goblin in the overcoat that's dealing drugs or something. Discovering the new characters as they come was really part of the fun, so I don't want to give too much away here, but there was a lot of interesting characters being introduced. Plus, like I said, there are some twists and turns, so I don't want to spoil anything with the story here either. Now, all jokes aside, none of the writing is voice acted, not even the illustrated cutscenes. So, fortunately, the writing does a great job of carrying the weight, not only from a literal writing perspective, but also from a visual perspective. Even here, the game finds and takes the opportunities for humor. Now, some of you will already know, pre-YouTube, I used to do art direction and graphic design and stuff, and so seeing typography being used as a powerful tool like this really kind of checked a box for me that I didn't know needed checking. It's very nicely handled, very nicely done. Solid storytelling using really solid writing and character development, which just took me by surprise, not what I was expecting at all. The gameplay loop. Mechanically, the campaign and the skirmish mode blend a few different things. There's an overworld map where you have your parties of heroes traveling from encounter to encounter, exploring the map to find loot. Anything from money to items to experience points. To ensure your parties are well equipped, you're going to want to hit as many of these encounters and loot drops as possible, but as turns pass, the world's encounters get harder over time, and your opponents are out adventuring at the same time, going after the same loot and encounters as you are. Building a strategy early on becomes important. Do you make multiple small parties that go scouting and stealing all the goodies that are easily got, sometimes sacrificing certain things for other gains? Or do you keep a strong party that can take on the engagements that guard some of the better pieces of loot? Or, even still, do you take the risky approach, have multiple middling parties that will succeed only if you perform particularly well? Do you mix and match the compositions of these parties in specific ways? How do you build them for the different factions, each of whom, again, have slightly different overarching mechanics? And whether you're playing a skirmish or a campaign mission, the overworld map is procedurally generated, which means even the campaign has replayability. As you're going around the world picking up loot, you'll come across a few different types of things. Some spots will generate resources for you on a daily basis, giving you more to work with. Items like healing potions or magical staffs or weapons are available for use in battle, as long as you equip your heroes with them, and sometimes you'll come across items in the middle of battle too. Experience points gained from certain loot, but also from engaging in battle, is used to upgrade your heroes, unlocking new abilities, or upgrading old ones. Magic and beat coins, which is the local currency, are used to upgrade your headquarters and recruit new heroes, each of which fall under different classes for different skill sets, and they come with unique traits that affect their performance in battle. And finally, there's renown, earned by doing well in battle, used to buy upgrades for your party, and upgrading your options, whether at a town level or at a character-specific level, is really quite fun, and it can make you quite attached to your characters as well, especially in the campaign. The resources are plentiful enough that you can easily obtain what you want, but not so plentiful that it's just a matter of time and zero effort. You do have to take some risks to gain everything you need, so there is a lot of decision making to be had there. Now, different factions derive different benefits from their town buildings too, so again, there's a touch of variety to be had there. In the campaign, when you complete one act, you can only bring 4 of your heroes ahead with you, as well as a select few other options. Of the 4 heroes, you can only have 1 of each class type being brought forward, and of the options you have available, you can bring some potions forward, and you can choose between various types of upgrades or boons that you start the next act with. It can be a tough call when you've got a bunch of heroes that have nearly died for you that you're now attached to, and then choosing the right benefits to begin the next act with becomes more and more important the further along you go. And all of this, of course, culminates into the tactical XCOM style battles. So the gameplay loop involves recruiting heroes, exploring with them, engaging in minor encounters to level them up, hopefully keeping them alive, while also building up your town for further benefits, all to prepare for the main battles before your enemies get too strong. There's no shortage of things to do, but I really want to touch on the tactical battles some more. These come with a lot of the standard fare. Action points that you can spend to move, attack, or use abilities, overwatch, attacks of opportunity, half and full cover. But these tactical battles are so much more fun thanks to the integration of physics. Physics seems like the most unique selling point here. Many of the achievements are tied to it, most of the special abilities are tied to it, and physics is a whole stat that gets buffs and debuffs on characters. So, what does physics do? Well, at the most basic level, you can push things around, which means you can shift cover around with you, literally lifting it from one square to another. You can also shift your other player characters or enemy units around as well, lifting them around. And you can also use a solid kick or some of your magic to maybe push an obstacle into an enemy and stun them, and that prevents them from attacking during their next turn. Or you can push your enemies into cover instead, and that does the same thing. It stuns them and shifts the cover around too. Or you can push your enemies into cover, who then push that cover into other enemies, who then... You get the trick. There are trees and statues to be toppled on top of enemies, rocks to be flung, mushrooms to be smacked around. What seemed like a simple system very quickly became complicated, and even an essential part of overcoming the enemy. You need to use the physics to stun enemies and buy yourself time. And you're going to want to try and perfect your angles and chain up physics combos to ensure maximum efficiency, because you're being graded on your performance for every encounter, affecting your rewards. You also have to be wary of the AI. It will also use physics effectively to shut your units down. And this isn't the only way physics and cover interact. When things bump into each other, they obviously interact. Now, cover can break other cover. A rock can cause a statue to topple, for example. But that same interaction can cause the more static cover pieces to break. Full cover becomes half cover gets destroyed completely. Pillars holding up structures can be toppled to bring entire structures down atop your enemies, and these fully destructible environments, they really allow the flow of battle to change. New turns allow new angles of approach, changing your accuracy rates as you clear viewing angles, or allowing you and your enemies to get at each other from new paths. This really kept me entertained a lot more than I was expecting. I really thought that physics was going to be a gimmick, but there were so many ways of using it, and I kept exploring and discovering new ways of utilizing physics. Each different kind of tile set has its own flavor to it as well, so it was a lot of fun seeing how the idea could be pushed, how the system could be pushed. And while you can use the baseline physics of pushing and pulling to do all this stuff, I was most shocked and entertained when I found the power of fire. Fire is a powerful tool. Like bleeding, blinding, and paralysis, burning is a status effect. As you can expect, it damages units over time. But it also damages the environment over time. Just like the physics of pushing and pulling, the physics of fire can destroy cover. And when you set something on fire and that fire spreads and the fire destroys all the walls that keep the roof up of a building, a very powerful new tool is unlocked. One of many tools that will come in handy because of the challenge. The game can be ridiculously aggressive and unforgiving, especially on the higher difficulties. I can be a bit of a gaming masochist who likes to play games on the hardest possible difficulty on the first go, and I like the bubbling rage of being done in by an opponent. I was constantly restarting engagements when things went wrong, trying to better myself, and the procedurally generated maps, for both the battle as well as the campaign and the skirmish overworld maps, they kept me on my toes. Even a restart didn't give me the same battlefield to fight on, so it's not like I could get used to a rhythm or something. I had to adapt. Each time the challenge felt different, and some of the story battles in particular have multiple stages to them, requiring you to be sneaky at times to prevent enemies from swarming you when you're unprepared. And as if that's not rough enough, the campaign will sometimes throw in a surprise flank or ambush, catching you completely unaware and forcing you again to adapt. And some battles will surprise you with completely new elements, like using physics to hit things only to find out you've helped hatch some spider eggs that now present a new enemy to deal with. At times, two of your enemies can be pit against each other if they're from opposing factions too, and sometimes running and hiding after unleashing a bunch of spiders on my enemies felt like a very viable and heroic strategy. I honestly wasn't expecting a challenge like this paired with the visuals that the game comes with, but I suppose I should have known better after the first time I saw a bunch of innocents get their throats slit after a back and forth about goblin interior design. Fort Triumph was really inviting creativity in a way other games in this genre haven't quite done for me, at least not in the recent past, not to my recollection. The physics brought each battlefield to life. Every turn changed the lay of the land, and the mix of whimsy and darkness matched the mix of adorable art style and the likelihood of brutal failure. It's been a cheeky bit of fun, and if you're interested in learning more about the game, I've got links for you in the description down below, like I said earlier. Now, if you're interested in getting the game for free, I've got 3 keys to give away. If you'd like to get your hat in the ring, leave a comment down below using the hashtag #GiveawayTriumph and give me your cheesiest fantasy joke. The cheesier, the better. Examples are on screen. I'll pick winners this coming weekend by replying to your comment, and you'll just have to let me know your Discord account so I can send you the key that way privately. Now, whether you have or haven't heard of Fort Triumph before, I hope this video gave you some insight into the game and what it has to offer. It's nice to see successful Kickstarters and to shine a light on indie games and developers. And if you're interested in coverage of more games in that same vein, make sure you subscribe to the channel. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of my channel members and patrons for supporting the channel on a monthly basis. You keep us alive and running smoothly. And a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.